Good afternoon, folks. Happy to be coming to you from the indoor air conditioning today. Welcome to Lisa Live this hot summer day. And today I'm doing a Q&A, so I'm taking questions and I'm hoping to answer them. And I'm really happy to be sitting inside our building, not outside in the scorching heat. Hey, Yvonne. So, welcome. My name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and welcome to the Gardener's Workshop Farm. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys today to just kind of kick around some questions. Hey, Lacey and Jan, and hey, Mark. I'm so glad Scooby came home. Mark's little dog ran away during a thunderstorm. You're welcome, Pam. You're welcome. So, even though the air conditioner's on in here, I'm feeling a little hot on the side of the building. I just can't believe how warm it is outside. I'm in southeastern Virginia, and we've really had not only scorching hot weather, but it's really, really humid and hot. I mean, yesterday by 10 o'clock in the morning, Bobo and I were actually Thursday morning. We're commenting at 10 a.m. we were already dripping wet. Good thing we had started at the crack of dawn to really be kind of done with our chores before noontime. So, oh goodness. Stand by, y'all. I had my questions here. So I had a hard time finding the questions posted on my event here. Oh, here they are. For some reason, they don't show up. I asked folks to post questions on the event feed, and they don't show up like on regular feeds. Anyway, so hello, Allison in Missouri, and Janice in Canada. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys today, and I almost didn't do a Facebook Live today because I thought, well, gosh, what am I going to talk about? Because I'll be real honest, July is really a lull month for us. While we're still working, I mean, we're harvesting and doing things, but we're kind of like here in Virginia in Zone 7, we're kind of coming to the end of planting our last summer annuals, but it's still too early to get busy starting our cool season annuals in the fall. And, there just didn't seem to be much to talk about, but there is a lot to talk about because I get so many questions all the time. And then when I asked for questions, y'all were kind enough to actually post some. So before we start on me looking at some of these questions, if you guys have a question, hey, Judy from Illinois and Christy from Tennessee. If you guys have questions, you can post them on the feed, and I will scroll back through those after I review. I think there's 6 or 7 that have actually already been posted, and I'm going to address those, and then I'll get back to what you guys are asking me on there. But as always, please remember to like and share this broadcast. That's what really helps me. With Facebook, they show our stuff to more people. The more shares we get and more back and forth, that makes them happy. And we, of course, want to make them happy because they give us this free platform to use, right? Hey, Tina in Washington from Olympia. And I also will talk a little bit about this during the broadcast, but on this post, on this Facebook post, I put the link to sign up for the free webinar that Dave Dowling and I are doing. I believe it's July 23rd. I'm almost positive. The date's on the link that we're doing. And I realized as I was preparing for this broadcast why that webinar is going to be so helpful for so many people, because I want to share this before we dive into. I don't have time much. Hey, Peggy from Vermont and Diana from Mississippi. I go in and read I'm a member of a lot of different flower farming groups and gardening groups. And I read so many people's posts about issues they think they're having and steps they're taking and things they're doing to maybe even thinking they're preventing problems, there is so much good energy being wasted on what I consider to be just not useless, but things that aren't necessary. And so that's really what this education that we try to offer now is all about. It's not that we know everything, because that for sure is not true. We really don't know everything, but we eliminate as much unnecessary work as we do tell you the things that you need to do. So I just want to say that particularly the webinar that Dave and I are doing are really telling you what some things that you really need to get down to business and do. Things to prepare for fall, things that you need to do for fall now, things that you'll need to be doing in the fall that you got to be prepared now to do that. And a lot of other wasted air and space is being used. I see a lot of people wasting a lot of great energy that could be used better. So that's what the webinar is really going to be great. I'm looking forward to doing it with Dave. And it's not going to be a Facebook Live, y'all. It's going to be an actual webinar. We have tech issues with rebroadcasting Facebook Lives at times. And so by us doing it as a webinar, it allows us to share it in a different way. So you have to sign up to get it, okay? And the link is on this post, and it is free. We are going to limit the number of people ultimately, because I have to pay for the number of based on the number of people that attend. So get signed up from that. Hey, Arkansas. So Callie, the webinar is, I can't look on my phone because we're on the phone. It's July 23rd, but the link is on this feed, and you sign up to get it, and we'll send you an email with the link to sign on when it takes place. So enough about all of that. So I'm looking at the first question, which I think is a really great one. It's about seed starting, and it's from Erin, and she writes that she has started seeds and soil blocks, and she's used the proper recipe, used the proper fertilizer, and she said that she did experience some problems getting the seeds poked down into the block. So I'm assuming she's talking about zinnias probably, because that's a little like a arrowhead seed that you poke down into the block. Let's see, where was I? So she was confused about the whole plant the seed, then put it onto heat, and then move it to light. And I'm going to just overview that. And I will say here that I do have an online course, and I know that Erin has taken this. Hey, Claire from Pennsylvania. I know that we do have an online course called Seed Starting Made Easy. It is $20, and it takes you through the steps for anyone that's not sure about the whole seed starting thing. From starting seeds indoors to planting outside, as well as teaches you how to start seeds outdoors. So that is a great resource for folks to use, and you can watch it as many times as you want. But a lot of people have this confusion that Erin's suffering from. So this is what happens. You make your blocks, you plant your seeds, and whenever you have a pointy seed like that, like marigolds, zinnias, and even tomato seeds are kind of a bigger seed, but they're thin seeds, so we plant them in the small block. You turn them upright, up and down, and push them into the block, pointy end down for zinnias and marigolds. On tomatoes, it doesn't matter. They're like a little frisbee. We tip them up on their side, and I'm watching the biggest spider walk across the kitchen counter. He's a different kind that I've not seen before, huh? He's a fast mover, so he's not a black widow, although he is black. And we turn that tomato seed up and use our toothpick to push it down in. Pushing it down into the block is what gives that seed darkness that it needs. So that's to answer your question about getting the seed in the block, Erin. So then she said she put them onto the heat mats and to get them to germinate, and then they started to germinate, and it sounds like she actually left them on the heat mat and then added lights. But here's what the steps are. You sow the seeds into the blocks. You place your seed, your squirrels. You're right, squirrel Mark. You place your trays onto the seedling heat mat. Once you see 50%, or happy birthday, Drew. Once 50% of those seeds show signs of life, you don't have to wait until you have a popping green vegetation. If you see the seeds starting to crack and see the little sprout coming out, that's considered that. Once half of the tray starts to do that, you move it off of the heat has done its job, and move it over to your grow lights. A lot of times, if you leave it on heat and you have a grow light, that will tend to roast your seedlings. And it's not necessary. The heat is no longer necessary at that point. So after I'm just reading what she's written here. She doesn't seem, I'm sorry. So I turned off the heat mats after all that had started. So now what she's faced with is that she's talking about zinnias, and they're 6 weeks old and they haven't grown very much. Well, first, we typically plant zinnias because they are fast growers in 2 to 3 weeks. So if yours haven't grown, and the pictures that I'm looking at, they look pretty tall. They look very yellow, so they look low on fertilizer, Aaron. But once they're about 3 to 5 inches tall is when we plant them outside. I don't know whether you are feeding them or not, but what happens when they stay in the tray as long as what you're saying they were in the tray, you start getting disease problems. And that's why you're getting brown spots. I would say if you have not already done it, plant those zinnias outside. Plant them into prepared soil, give them a drink of fertilizer, and I think that they will be fine. But the methodology is sow the seeds. They go on heat. Once 50% show signs of life, move them from the heat mat to grow lights. Once they're 3 to 5 inches tall, they should be, outdoors, hardening off, and moved out to the garden, because if you leave them in the tray too long, they start to get disease problems. And I would say if they're stunted, as you're kind of explaining here, that's part of them being in the blocks too long. I think that you have several different problems going on, but if you get them moving along a little quicker than what you did, you will not experience this problem. So I just have to read Tina's. I know that a lot of flowers should be started now or into the fall, but I always get confused when books talk about half-hardy and hardy annuals. None of my flower books have a list by actual flowers as to when to sow. Do you know of any lists like this? I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so have a large window but don't know when is best. Also having a hard time finding seed life info for flowers. Don't want to put effort into trying to grow seeds that are old. Well, good questions, Tina. So, first off, y'all, I'm sorry, I gotta grab my water. My allergies are still crazy. Okay, so Tina's question, I understand completely her confusion, because when I was researching my book, Cool Flowers, to learn about more hardy annuals, I read about more half-hardy. There are so many different words. In my life, all I talk with I describe annuals in 2 different ways. There are warm season tender annuals, which are the zinnias, the sunflowers, cosmos, basil, tomatoes, all of those annuals that thrive during the heat of summer and the cold kills them. The first frost just takes them down, right? Those are warm season tender annuals. Hardy annuals are cool season hardy annuals, are those annuals that will survive cold weather. Now, there are definitely different levels of cold weather, right? That there are some hardy annuals that will survive winter here in my Zone 7 garden that certainly will not survive in more northern people's zone 4, right? I mean, their winters are far colder, they get heavy snow loads. So there is different levels of winter survival based on your zone. In Cool Flowers, I try to list that. Hey Kim from Tennessee, I try to define that for you in Cool Flowers, but I so understand. So for me, I have just kind of pushed every annual into one of those two categories. I can't even, there are so many plants in this world. Really, my knowledge is not much far beyond cut flowers. Those flowers that really grow best as cut flowers. But that's how I tend to file flowers in my brain, if that helps you at all, Tina. Oh, that's a warm season annual, and so I know I can plant that then. Oh, that's a cool season hardy annual. I'm in zone, I would imagine if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you're probably zone 6 or 7 or 8. I could or couldn't plant that in the fall. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but Cool Flowers may help you define that. And about your question about, there is a list somewhere that I saw, I can't tell you where it is, about the seed life of flower seeds. But here's the thing, a lot of that depends on how they're stored. Low humidity and cool temperatures, moisture and heat are the death of seeds. So as a general rule, I try to start with fresh seed just about all the time. We package our seeds that we sell. We don't save those seeds. We just buy seeds from hybridizers and seed houses and package them. And we tend to constantly be packaging because we constantly want fresh seed coming in that's been germinated, tested. And I would say to you that some seeds are definitely more sensitive than others. It is a tough decision sometimes to see how you can buy more of a bulk of a seed for a less price, and then to buy just a few seeds and they cost almost as much. If you can't use all those seeds in just about a season, I would say to you, don't go for that. And we really, so let's just use for one instance, larkspur is one seed that I'm telling you loses its it's super sensitive. So it loses its ability to germinate after 1 year. I did it, I guess it was 2 years ago, we decided to stop packaging larkspur in individual colors. We sell it as a mix. Well, I plant it as a flower farmer in individual colors, white and blue and dark blue and da-da-da-da. Well, when we stopped packaging it, I said, well, we're not throwing that seed away. I'm going to use it. So I took that bulk seed and saved it for the next fall. I wasted 200-foot beds, sowed all of that seed, and I'm telling you, almost zero germinated. It was a mess. So I learned, I didn't follow my own advice, but I just reminded myself. So my methodology is to always start with fresh seed. So I hope that helps. Pam, when starting Cool Flower seeds with soil blocking, do they need to stay cool and just use the lights, or do you still put them on the heat mat? So, and cute comment, Pam, she says she's still in kindergarten. We're all still in kindergarten, Pam. I mean, I'm doing new things all the time, so I'm in kindergarten, just in different stuff than you guys. So, in fact, yes, cool season hardy annuals do need warm temperatures to sprout and germinate. They do not need it as hot as warm season does. So I'll tell you what my trick is. And I talk about this, I think, in Cool Flowers, but definitely in the online course, Cool Flowers Beyond the Book for flower farming, so you have your heat mat. I put especially for Rudbeckias and Snapdragons, just all of those cool season annuals, I put a cookie cooling rack, that you put cookies on that have little short legs. I put that rack on my heat mat, which gives it a little airspace. And that airspace cools down the mat just enough that gives your cool season hardy annuals a consistent warmth that they need to sprout, but it doesn't overheat them. So try that, Pam, and I hope that'll help you. And so Allison asks that she says that she's noticing ants on her flowers. How do I prevent this? And how do I get rid of them before bringing them inside? Also, some of them have multiple buds on the stem. Well, I'll answer your multiple buds. I'm guessing that those are pro-cut. They are pro-cut. She says that. Y'all, I'm sorry, I gotta drink more water. I'm on allergy medicine again. Excuse me. Pro-cuts this time of the year when the days are long, for whatever reason, I don't understand the genetics of it, but they will sprout little side shoots. They've never really grown up to be enough to matter to us. I mean, we don't save them. We tear down beds immediately. But that's, up to you what you do with it. But that's normal behavior. You don't see that in early spring and in the fall. Ants can be there for several different reasons. First off, there's nectar on sunflowers. And if you have a lot, first off, ants are good bugs. They are super workers on the farm. So you don't want to kill ants. You just want to make them go where they need to go. I mean, they're great soil workers. And so the first thing I would think is that they were there perhaps for the nectar. And there's not a lot you can do about that in the garden, except I'm looking at the ones that you're showing in your picture. I would have probably cut them a day or two before that. And sometimes the nectar is not really working so much then, so you'll get them inside before the ants get on them. However, if you use flower food in your bucket water, in your harvest water, that has sugar in it. This works for peonies too. If you have a lot of ants on your flowers, if you use regular flower food, not the pre-treatment and not holding solution, but the regular cut flower food in the water when you harvest, that attracts the ants, and unfortunately they drown, but that gets them off your flowers. So I don't see that much here, but that will get them off of there. So Patty, let's see. In your online farming school, do you go over? So Patty is asking a question about flower farming school, and she's asking, do you go over starting sunflowers exclusively? We are having issues and can't seem to figure it out. So I'll answer that first before I read the rest of her question. Yes, I go into depth about several main cash crops that we focus on that are annuals, that are good money makers, that fit really well with selling to florists, to selling at farmers market. But what I want to say to you, Patty, is if there's any question that you have about any of the online courses, whether it's my online course, Flower Farming School, or the new course, the Advanced Flower Farming School with Dave, we do weekly Facebook Lives during school with our closed group, with just students. And any question that we didn't address or you don't fully understand, we answer it completely for you. So I'm going to say yes, we would address whatever problems you're having. Also, starting seeds indoors as the temperatures start to rise, do you change your methods? We're having to start seeds in our workshop, and so the temperatures fluctuate due to us being in and out. Some days cooler when we're working in there, then we crank up the heat when we're not to let the seeds be able to start. Seed trays are on the heat mat and then under T12 lights. So the temperature in our seed starting room, probably, I'm just thinking, certainly it fluctuates. In the heat of summer, like right now when it's 95 degrees, at 4:30 in the afternoon, we actually leave the door open because it gets too hot in there. It'll cook whatever you're growing in there. So we have to cool the room down. But I want a minimum of 80 degrees in that room. That's what makes our plants grow quickly. This is where our plants grow under lights and where they're also in a heat mat in the same room. And that's why our plants tend to grow so quickly. So you have to have warm temperatures. So I don't know if that answers your question. We would probably need to talk more about that too. But you want a minimum of 80 degrees if you want plants to be growing in that room. And T12 lights are great. They're one of my favorites. I'm wondering about cutting, Rebecca asks, I'm wondering about cutting zinnias after you've done the first deep cut. Do you cut for a certain length and just take whatever shoots are on it, or do you cut just to where the next shoot starts, or do you cut down to the base each time? So Rebecca, great question. I get more questions about cutting zinnias. So for those of you that haven't watched the video, you can go to on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com, go to the Learning Center, go to that video guide, the how-tos. There's a video of me showing where to make the first cut. So let's just say that my hand is a zinnia. This is the central stem, and here's all these branches. I'm going to cut this central stem way down here, just above the bottom 3 or 4 shoots. This establishes the plant to branch. This is for zinnias, coxcomb, basil, any branching is annual, right? And then, so that's the first central cut. That's the most important cut of the season. Then all the succession cuts are these side shoots that grow. And no, I cut where the plant needs me to make the cut, not for how long the stem I need is. So I go to the end of that stem and make the cut. The deeper you cut every time produces longer, straighter stems. And this is what's happening right now. We have so many zinnias. I mean, we grow a lot more zinnias than we actually, I don't know if y'all can see the buckets. These are the leftovers from our members only market on Friday, which we always want to have leftovers to trash because that means the last customer had a lot to choose from, right? Well, we overgrow, and when it gets really hot, it's hard for us to cut all the zinnias. And what I find, Bobo doesn't do this. Bobo cuts deep every time. That woman can bend over 1,000,000 times a week and never have a sore back. I'm not so fortunate. So I find myself not bending as much this time of the year to cut as deep, and it shows 2 or 3 weeks down the row, down the line, with shorter stems coming on. And some varieties are worse. Benary's Giants kind of grow in spite of me, but flowers like the Oklahoma series, Queen, man, if you don't cut them all the way at the end of each stem, they will come back to haunt you with stems that are, 13 inches long and you can't use them. So that's the moral of that story. I cut to the end of the stem all the way as deep as I possibly physically can, literally. Betsy asks, I'm wondering if you fertilize your zinnias. I grew some at the end of the veggie garden for Color and Me. So let me answer that first. Once we plant zinnias into the garden, we do not fertilize them any further. But you have to understand that we have rich organic soil. We put dry organic fertilizer in when the bed is made. The zinnias are well fertilized before they get to the garden. But once they're in the garden, we fertilize no more because that tends to help fuel mildew. Mildew is fed by the same thing that plants are fed on, the sugars. So I don't fertilize them anymore. So the next question, where was I? We own, and she asked what varieties. As a home gardener, I grow Benary's Giants. As a commercial farmer, only grow Benary's Giants. All of the secondary ones are just not staple flowers. They don't produce enough. But as a home gardener, I love the Queen series, I love Oklahoma, and I love the cactus. But they are not good commercial production flowers. They don't last long enough, and they don't produce enough, and they aren't big enough. And I would definitely, for a home gardener, plant mixes because you want a big variety, right? And so someone's asking me, she's also asking about growing dahlias. We do grow dahlias. I'm in zone 7 here, and that allows us to winter our dahlias over in the ground. We don't have to dig them. We give them excellent drainage. Dahlias like a lot of food. They like a lot of water and excellent drainage. and they need to be supported with netting. Dahlias can definitely have disease issues. Some of mine are suffering from disease right now. But here's the moral to the story. Our dahlias suffer the whole month of July and August. The heat just tears them up. And we just ignore them. I cut them a little bit. We don't cut them to sell or to keep. We cut them just to keep the flowers coming. And about the 1st of August, mid-August, I cut all of our dahlias back, just like I would cut if I was harvesting them, back to just a couple of inches below ground level, above ground level. And then we'll fertilize them and net them and get them ready for September and October and November. That's when their weather comes. That's when they're happiest. The temperatures start to come down at night. And the disease issues that didn't ravage them tend to not be a problem any longer, and the pest pressure's not as bad. So I'm not a great dahlia person to talk to, but that's the way that I manage dahlias. So Ashley asks, when you create your subscription bouquets, how many stems and fillers do you use for each bouquet? Well, Ashley, we don't actually count stems. We go by head size. Our subscription bouquets are big bouquets. And we're looking, if you looked at a grocery store bouquet, the $15 bouquet you get in a grocery store, it's about, excuse me, y'all, I'm getting drier by the minute. The grocery store bouquet, which is a $15 retail bouquet typically, is about a soccer ball size. That was the size we used to sell at farmers markets, and that's the size that Suzanne makes here, ready-made for our members-only market customers. Our subscription bouquets are bigger than that. So I don't know what size ball that would be, but it's probably about 12 inches in diameter. So we don't always count stems. Depends on the size of your flowers and that kind of thing. So we really go by how the bouquet presents itself. That's what the customer cares about. They're not counting the stems. They want to see the same size bouquet. The premium size bouquet is what our subscription gets. So this is all the questions I had before. So I'm going to scroll back through, and I just want to remind everybody, please like and share this broadcast. That's what really helps us the most. And I did put the link to the free webinar that Dave Dowling and I are doing July. Now I can look on this iPad since I don't have to worry about coming back. So where is that? It's on our website. It's amazing how many devices we have and how much stuff we have. So if you miss this link for whatever reason, you can always find the sign up for the webinar on our workshop. Trying to get to it. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, y'all. I got to come in the back door here. It's not letting me. You know, it's so funny. As a business owner that runs a website, you cannot imagine the nightmare of how, when you own a website and you put stuff on your website, how it appears different on every person's device. I mean, from an iPad, from an iPhone to an Android to an iPad to a Google Pad to a desktop to a laptop. And I'm just now realizing that on my iPad, it won't let me display the registration for that workshop. So it is July 23rd, I think. I guess I could just look on. I don't even have a calendar on this iPad. So the webinar is not a Facebook Live. It's actually a webinar. And Wanda, you're listening from the farmer's market. You better not let a customer see you doing that, girl. Wanda's in Alaska, and she has peonies because she lives in Alaska. They're so much later. So the webinar, you have to sign up to get it, and we will be Dave and I are talking about what you should be doing now to prepare for fall and what you should be doing in fall. So it's going to be a really, really, really great one. So, oh my goodness, there's a lot of stuff on here. Holy cow. All right, so let's see. You're welcome, Pam. So I'm seeing lots of highs from folks. Georgia. Oh, hello, Lawson, Mark's grandson. Allison in Missouri. Hey, Rhonda. So we got a lot of people on here. For British Columbia. I'm glad to hear that. I was wondering if I'd missed something about July being slow. So, Christy, July, this is really a tough month for me because we still are starting sunflower seeds every week, but we're not starting, our warm season annuals. Bobo just finished up. Our last ones are in the plant room. And so now we kind of go into this lull of just trying to survive harvesting, right? And I will tell you that our members only market is so busy right now. It's taken us a lot of years to get to this point, y'all. I could not believe how many people were in here on Friday. So while the farmers markets, I think some folks still have some slow times there. I don't know that people are going out and shopping on Saturdays there. Our market's on Friday, so that helps a whole lot. Thank you for sharing this, Kim. Yes, liking and sharing this broadcast helps me so much. Hey, Kathleen from Connecticut, and Jackie from Oregon, and Lisa from Georgia. Hey, and Shannon from New Brunswick. Saw one of those hummingbird bugs in the garden this morning. Do you mean a hummingbird moth? They are awesome. They sound like a hummingbird. You can hear them coming, but they look like a big bumblebee, and they have the longest snoots, so they're great pollinators. They're good guys to have in your garden. So Callie's asking about the webinar, and the registration to sign up for the free webinar is on this Facebook feed, so you can sign up there. Hey, Rod from Arkansas, I hope you're doing okay. And Claire is here, and her mom. And yes, Mark, I saw a squirrel. Westminster in South Georgia. Thanks for the seed timeline. Ready for another round of seeds. So so what I'm doing right now, I'll tell you all that. So first off, we just learned last week, and it's not been officially confirmed, our farm is going to be on Historic Garden Week tour next year, which is a Garden Club of Virginia event. It's a big deal. Garden Club of Virginia is 47 garden clubs throughout Virginia. And it's called the largest open house in the United States of America. And those 47 garden clubs seek out 5 to 6 properties in their area and then open them up for the public to come see them. Gorgeous homes, beautiful gardens, and the money that's raised from these tours goes to restore properties and gardens in the state of Virginia. I mean, they have raised millions and millions of dollars to restore properties in the state of Virginia. Anyway, so we just learned that we're going to be on it, and this is like the cool flower garden time of the year. It's the third week in April. So while I had my cool flower garden all planned out in my little brain, scratched all that, now we are replanning because I've got to make room for more things that will definitely be blooming early, like bachelor buttons and poppies, for more of a show for the tour. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I am planning my cool flower garden. And then, I'm digging deep into catalogs and looking at what in the world am I going to grow and how much am I going to grow and what am I doing. And then I'm also planning my cover crop for the fall, because that'll be another beautiful show for the early spring for this tour. So cool flowers is what I'm all about right now, not starting them, but planning them and then ordering my seeds and getting all my peas in a row. And I'm just looking here at what you guys are writing. Hey, Nashville. Hey, Daniel. Thank you for loving my books. And hey, Jesse from South Dakota. Ann asks, are you coming to Mother Earth in Pennsylvania? I am not, Ann. So I am sorry to say that. So, hey, from Fort Monroe, that's right down the road from me. So let's see. Hey, Mary Jo in Nashville. Thought I saw a question on here. Okay, thanks. That really helps. Glad to. Oh, Tina, that was your question that I answered. Oh, wait a minute. Will soon be starting my cool flowers in the Ozarks. Read the book in January, but now I'm reading it again. You know, Sherry, that's just such a good point. I go back and reread my books as well as the other books that help me when I come time. I mean, because you read a book and you think, oh, look at that tidbit of information. And you know what else I do? I don't have any down here, but I buy those little tabs that are like sticky notes, but they're for marking pages. I kind of write seed starting or building beds or weed prevention and tag spots in my book so that when I'm, like you're doing, rereading, I can go back when I have that problem and think, where did I see that? And go back and look at it. So that's a great one. I reread the same books over and over again and I watch my online courses that I've taken from other people to learn how to take online courses all the time. I mean, so I talk about the same things over and over again, literally. Seed starting, growing cut flowers. And I say stuff, but people only hear the part that they're working on at that moment. You know what I mean? We listen to what we're focused on, and they don't hear me say the rest of the story. And then they have the rest of the story problem in a month, and they have to ask that question. And that's just the way we learn, right? So I totally get it. I see the ants mostly on my light-colored Pro Cuts, White Knight, and Jade. So, Lisa, first off, I've never grown Jade, but we're growing Pro Cut, White Knight, and White Light. And we love them, even though they're buggy and their necks are not nearly as stiff as the oranges. Our customers are all over the top for these things. So I'm learning. I cut them tight. And I think that's before they really start oozing, and we find less bug damage, and it's really funny. So let's just say, so we start 125 of each of those colors a week. And so out of 125, there'll be 3 that have heavy bug damage. The rest of them are untouched. Go figure. I don't understand why that is or how that works, but so cut them early and just beef up your organic program, meaning the balance and act, which that's what Vegetables Love Flowers is all about. So Becky asks, how do you keep cosmos from wilting? As soon as I cut them, they're drooping. Well, first off, I don't grow cosmos as a cut flower anymore. Not only are they droopers, they just don't last long enough. So you need to cut them pretty closed. And you need to cut them first thing in the morning and then hightail them inside. Take off, I'm trying to think, it's been so long since I've cut a Cosmo, it's at least been a season. We grow them every year in our garden because I forget. There's a whole patch out there right now that's totally not been cut. It's got old flowers and new flowers. And our customers like them, but they just don't. It's like if Suzanne puts them in a bouquet, our bouquets last 10 days. That Cosmo will be lucky to go 5 days. So then you get an old dying flower in the midst of that bouquet, and customers unfortunately don't think, oh, I'll just pull that flower out. They pitch the whole thing. So we don't grow them commercially anymore. If you are doing home growing, no problem with that. Cut them closed, take all the foliage off, cut them early, and get them inside. Kim, any recommendations for beetles? Got flea beetles, Japanese beetles, cucumber beetles. Well, we must be related, Kim. I don't have flea beetles. I'm sure I probably do, just don't have them bad enough. But we had Japanese beetles and we got cucumber beetles out the kazoo this year. So first off, flea beetles. The only way that we deal with flea beetles is because we would get that on eggplant. I've never grown a cut flower that attracted flea beetles. I know there are a couple. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Over the Gate, something another, really attracts flea beetles. I don't grow it because of that. I don't grow eggplant anymore because of this. But when we did grow eggplant, we would keep the eggplants covered with floating row cover until they needed to be pollinated, and then by that time the plants are big enough that even if the flea beetles came, they did not cause enough damage. I cannot offer you any assistance. If you have them on cut flowers, I don't know what the answer to that would be, except to keep that crop covered until they get too tall. Japanese beetles, we hand pick. I could spend a whole day squishing Japanese beetles. I mean, I squish them constantly. And I will tell you that after years of doing that, we have cut our numbers. Every one beetle you squish, Japanese beetle, you prevent 20 the next year because they don't lay babies in your lawn. So hand picking, I've told this several times and I'll say it again here. There is a person, his name is Dr. Dirt, and I have searched their website and it's no longer there. But I attended a talk that he said this is what you can do. If you have a huge population of Japanese beetles already in your garden, because what happens is when you put out lures to attract Japanese beetles, to catch them, oftentimes you bring more to your garden than you already have. But if you're already fighting a bazillion of them, you have nothing to lose doing this. Take a 5-gallon bucket and fill it halfway with soapy water. Take a lamp or a light bulb and hang it over that bucket, or put maybe a piece of wood that doesn't, not a very thick piece of wood. You want the beetles to be attracted to the light and then drop down into the water. The light perfectly would hang right over top of the bucket. He says that you will find thousands of Japanese beetles the next morning, which you could then, I don't know what you would do with them. If you have them that thick, I guess you would need to be sure they're all dead and trash them. Cucumber beetles are a little bit more of a challenge. I will definitely tell you that we, in the last 2 years, because of the construction next door to us, and they have made these huge mountains of soil over there that sat and then grew weeds, and pigweed, which we did not used to have a problem. Pigweed is amaranth weed. This is why we grow no more amaranths on this farm. If you're growing amaranth, you're attracting beetles to your garden, cucumber of all kinds, the striped one and the polka dotted one. When they started making those piles of dirt next door, the pigweed grew, went to seed, and guess what? It blew over here, and I have never seen so much pigweed. I actually almost mowed a brand new bed of zinnias last night. There is so much I couldn't tell where the zinnias were and where the pigweed was. And when I was mowing the pathway that had pigweed in it, I had to hold my breath because the beetles were so thick, I almost breathed in beetles. So I've got you. So for cucumber beetles, weed control is a huge thing. If you've got pigweed, we've got to get our pigweed under control. And yellow sticky traps help and getting rid of your pigweed. Other than that, I do not know of anything you can spray. I wouldn't spray anyway, but I don't have any other solution for you. Hey, Wanda. Jennifer, I have thrips in my roses. What should I do? Thrips are a problem, and this is the height of the season for them. What I would do if these are, I don't know what kind of rose it is, but I'll tell you what organic rose growers do. They cut their roses back to 12 inches. When they have beetle pressure, black spot pressure, and any kind of insect pest pressure, they cut them all the way back at the height of the worst part of the season, which is right now. Then those roses regrow over the next 4 to 6 weeks to perform beautifully again in the fall. I would cut them back. I don't know anything about roses. I don't grow roses. But this is what I would do. I would cut them back, throw away that cuttings into your trash can. Do not compost it. And get them out of your property and give your roses a chance to recover. Hey, Patty and Sheila and Mary and Dream. Hi, Lisa. I enjoy your tour a few weeks and wanted to know where you buy your Lisianthus and plants. So she must have come here to our open farm. We were blown away by our open farm. We had hundreds of people show up to our little urban farm. We had 10 states represented. I'm in southeastern Virginia. We had people from New York and Georgia and Tennessee, and it was just so overwhelming, and I just love doing it. So we buy our Lisianthus. That's the only plant I buy. We buy it from Germania, which is a plant broker. I don't know if you're a farmer or a home gardener. If you're a home gardener, I understand that Burpee and Parks online sell the plants early in the season. But if you're a commercial grower, you can get them through Germania. They're seed brokers, and you have to buy 4 trays, which is about 1,200 plants minimum at the time. But that's where we get ours. Oh yeah, Kim, looking forward to the webinar. Hey, Paul. Wanda, I'm sneaky listening from the farmer's market. Connecticut, my phone is hidden in the flowers. Oh, Wanda, you are such a smarty pants. Paul, hey, Paul from Texas. Paul, if I'm not mistaken, was either here for boot camp or... So Mark's asking, what is your preference on how often to feed fish emulsion? Well, Mark, I wouldn't do it for zinnias, but everybody else would qualify. And once a month would be a dream. And I believe if you read the bottle instructions, I think you can feed weekly with that. I think that might be a little bit of overkill, but once a month, I really believe that foliar feeding, which means pouring the fertilizer onto the plant, and soil drenching, that means pouring it on the soil or feeding it through the irrigation, is so beneficial. When you pour fish emulsion, or we use actually seaweed and fish emulsion, when you spray it onto the foliage, I believe it builds bionic plants. I mean, it's just remarkable how healthy they are. So I would say once a month, and even more often if your instructions indicate, does the fish emulsion ever attract unwanted animals like golden retrievers? Yes. We have a ton of varmints around here. I wish seedlings, but I'm nervous about using because of animals. So, I'm wondering if the seaweed fish, so you're definitely right. Fish emulsion can attract, because it kind of smells like rotting fish, right? Which can be raccoons and possums and other unwanted creatures in your garden. So I would say if you have a varmint problem, I would look at other organic liquid fertilizers. I'm just thinking, I haven't ever gone to look for this, but I'm sure it's out there. Seaweed and other products that are used to make fertilizer that might not be as aromatic. I mean, our golden retriever will lick a plant clean of fish emulsion and then have just wonderful breath. Oh, thanks, Kim. Let's see. Lisa, love the light suns. Jade is beautiful and sold well too, huh? So thank you guys. Will the tour affect your normal market? You said you are rethinking your plan. No, Melanie's asking about, will me rethinking the cool flower plan now that we have this tour coming in April? No, this just means that, for instance, the plants that typically are the first to bloom on our farm out in the field, bachelor buttons, poppies, I'm thinking, mainly those two. I don't typically plant a lot of them. We plant 10 or 15 feet just to have enough for our early members only market, right? But I will definitely be planting more of them for a spectacular show. We probably won't even harvest those beds. They'll be for pollinators and for this tour, just to benefit Historic Garden Week. So we'll still plant the same stuff. I just have to work in some more display stuff, right? Tammy, my daughter is getting married in April, so I appreciate your thoughts on having some things ready. And reading cool flowers. Wait a minute, can't read the rest. As well, I have not had a cool flower garden yet. Well, first off, Tammy, I would definitely have a backup plan. People growing for their own personal event is tough. See, that's why we would never commit to somebody's event. I have no idea what's going to be blooming when, even after 20 years. So while you should certainly plant your cool flower garden and plant so much more than you think you need to, but you need to have a backup plan in case you fail, in case you have a weather issue, in case nothing's blooming, in case you only have red snapdragons and nothing, you know what I mean? So that's the way you give yourself insurance and not fret the entire winter. I don't know where you are, but if you're in zone 7, 8, or 9, you can really have a great garden. Zone 6, it's a little harder to get stuff earlier. So let's see here. Oh, Sherry says lamb's ear attracts flea beetles. Well, I don't grow lamb's ear, but that's good to know. Oh, kiss me over the garden gate. That's the flea beetle. I actually saw that years ago at Bob Woolham's farm, and my sister loved it. She wanted it so bad for bouquets. I planted it once, and I also think it's invasive. I planted it. Oh my goodness, we had so many flea beetles. I barely could get that mess out of here. Matt, what is your peony spacing and what is your fertilizer recommendation for the first year peony plants? Well, we're getting ready to move our peonies for the first time in probably 10 years. And I'm going to refer to Dave Dowling. That's one of the things I go down a rabbit hole here. You know, our new online course this year is Advanced Flower Farming School. And Dave just sent me the description of what's going to be covered in that class. And we'll be getting that page up next week. Oh my gosh, y'all. I am so excited for this course because I'll tell you, I know how to grow a lot of these bulbs and things that he'll be talking about, but I haven't grown them in so many years. When I went into mass production for 10 years, I let a lot of these wonderful, gorgeous stuff fall to the wayside. And he sent the list, and it's just going to be so much rockin' fun. I can't tell you how excited I am. And I'm so glad because we have to relocate our peony patch. I have a lot of big peonies. And I will suspect, Matt, I'm going to be planting mine in a single row. And I would suspect that Dave is going to say, because you don't want to ever have to dig peonies and split them, I think they're going to be 24 inches. I'm not sure about that. So we'll have to refer to Dave on that. And we fertilize our peonies in the fall. And we just use general purpose peony fertilizer. But that's the kind of detail stuff that Dave is going to be sharing in. And I just can't tell you how. I just think it's going to take people as myself to the next level. Because I tell you where I am. After producing for 23 florists and 2 supermarket chains and giving all that up, downsizing, we now only produce for our members only market, who we can now produce so much more variety and so much more gorgeous stuff. I'm now revisiting so many things that I haven't grown forever, and some things never. And that's what Dave's class is going to do for all of us. So, Matt, that's the best I can tell you is I think 18 to 24 inches apart in a single row, and we use basic organic dry fertilizer in the fall. So you're welcome, Kim. Is there anywhere to buy plugs without having to wait all the weeks for them to grow? So no, when you buy, she's asking about ordering plugs on a commercial basis. And no, those are most often custom grown. So that means that let's see, this is July. I will be ordering my Lisianthus to be planted next mid-February. I'll be ordering in September because first off, it takes 12 weeks to grow Lisianthus. So they need to know 12 weeks before they need to ship them. And they literally grow those Lisianthus for me. Now, you can risk it. And occasionally, some of the big growers, you go to Germania, and they represent many greenhouses. And you can ask them for an availability list. They'll send you a list of trays that are ready and waiting, trays that greenhouses went out on a limb and started, or they had extras or whatever. And sometimes you can get things that you want, but not always. So you don't have to wait all those weeks, but there's box minimums. Usually it's 4 tray minimum. But you just need to Germania and Fred Glockner. Fred Glockner and Germania are plant brokers. And you call them, and I mean, you feel like a little guy, but anyway, that's one of the things we talk about in flower farming school, how to navigate all this crazy commercial stuff. But you connect with them and they can send you availability lists. Do you have any plants growing in a shady long border? I have a beautiful shade border. It's full of hellebores, Japanese anemones, Spanish bluebells, Virginia bluebells, bleeding hearts, pretty much, and Solomon seal. What about compost instead? Yeah, compost tea I'll do anytime, and even on zinnias, because they don't provide a lot of nutrition. They're just full of great microorganisms. So yeah, we love using compost tea. Alberta, and so I'm coming to the end here, y'all. I can't, it's already 5 o'clock. Alberta, Canada, I took your online course this winter, and I was also blessed to learn from it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Oh, you're welcome, Lena. My pleasure. Do you succession plant Rudbeckia? No. Well, you can. We can fall plant and early spring plant, but you know what we've learned? It almost blooms at the same time. I plant different varieties, and that spreads out the bloom. Would fall planting help my carnations have stronger stems? I do not grow carnations. I grew a lot of these heirlooms that folks are seeing about now. They're a cool flower, and they need to be grown when it's cool. I just was not taken away with them, so I don't have a lot of experience with them. It depends on where you are. Zone 7, I do believe they winter over, and it would definitely, if they'll survive your winter, they'll definitely give you a healthier plant. So, do snaps bloom all summer? Depends on where you live, Mary Jo. By about the end of June, and when the summer flowers have started, our snaps start to get shorter because of the heat. They start to get rust because of the heat. And people are ready to move on to summer flowers. If you live in the northern parts of the world where, you have cool summers, yes, they'll go on. If found at market that every veggie farmer has flowers now also, I just have flowers. Is this typical of a market across the nation? It certainly is possible. And that's why I think a lot of people, this is something we talk about in flower farming school, and I go deep on. There's a lot of other markets outside of farmers markets, y'all, because that's what you're finding. You have the old established flower farming, market vendors, those people that are really rooted in and doing a great business and doing a great job. And then you have a lot of new farmers, and they're just throwing and seeing what sticks to the wall. They're growing vegetables, they're growing flowers, and unfortunately it affects sales. So I don't know what to tell you about that, except that stick to your guns. You cannot sell cheap, because you cannot have a long business. You cannot be sustainable that way. You need to find somewhere else to sell your flowers if that's an ongoing problem. So we saw that at the farmers markets that I was in. We had farmers selling $3 bouquets. And no, I never came off of my price. And, sometimes we took flowers home, but better for me to sell $20, $15 bouquets than to sell $33 bouquets. I can tell you that. So it's crazy. They won't be there very long. So I think I've answered everybody's question, so I've got to head out of here. And so anybody, you're welcome, Mary Jo. So, and I wanted to say, for those of you that knew that today was a little reunion at our house this afternoon, Barry's, who I got Barry from, my good friend Laurie DeMoe, who passed away about 18 months ago, brought Barry, our golden retriever, to us 24 months ago because she knew what was coming. And today, for the first time, her husband, her 2 adult daughters, and the sons of one of those daughters came to visit Barry, and I posted a really sweet video. It was Barry's old housemate that she grew up with, Cubby. And it was really sweet to see Cubby and Barry see each other for the first time. It took them a minute of sniffing, and then you can tell when they recognized each other. And anyway, it was really sweet, and it was really good for Jay and Gaby and Danny to see Barry. Barry was the apple of Laurie's eye. Barry is a retired performance dog, and Laurie did amazing things in the show world and in the obedience world. And anyway, so it was really a great day. So I'm running out of voice here. So remember, please like and share this. Be sure to sign up for our free webinar with Dave. And we will see you on the other side of, let's see, what day is this? This is July 12th. See you next week, hopefully. Ciao.